It's another week of According to Hip Hop Live. Happy birthday to Biggie. It's Biggie's birthday,
Yeah,
so we gonna count down the top 10 Biggie verses. What's your favorite Biggie verse? What up, Coop, man? How you doing this week?
blessed and highly favored. Peace to all.
Yes, sir. Let's get everybody in the room, man. Oh yeah, man. We were on the Star Report yesterday. Shout
Yeah,
out to
yeah,
Star.
yeah, yeah. Let's start with that. Yeah,
Yeah. Shout out to Star, man. We were talking about the yearbook and how important it is for us to be documenting hip hop history as it's going on. Star shares that sentiment as well and had us on the show to talk about it. Shout out to him.
yeah. You want to know what? When we got done last night, Mike, with it, I thought to myself, I've been like kind of following, listening to Star's writing, radio, whatever, since high school. Like I first got hip to Star like from the source, like 97, 98 ish.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
know,
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's yeah. So I kind of grew up on Star a little bit, so it was kind of like funny and a mark of progression to be like kind of like being on a call in with him, and was really like blessed and honored to do so. So like shout out to Star.
Shout out to Star, man. That's love, man. Shout out to everybody coming in the room as well. We celebrating Biggie tonight, man. And what is your favorite Biggie verse? Man,
Right.
the chats is lighting up already. We got Sky's the Limit. Jerry Wanzer says greatest rapper. Byron Gibson says Sky's the Limit verse 1. We got Notorious Thugs. We got Party and Bullshit. We got Biggie's
Hmm.
verse on Victory. All right, man. Look, it's so much. Where would you go first
Yeah.
with this, Coop? Victory stands
Uh,
out for me.
the what used to call me Fatso, now you call me Castro. That was
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like not too many guys can like flip like that, like in terms of not just bar and style and delivery wise, but also like rhyme and idea wise. You know
Hold
what
up,
I'm
man. You
saying?
froze on my end, man. I'm gonna hang you up and get back. We're gonna get to the chat, but let me hang you up and get right back so this don't happen
Yeah,
again. All right.
that's cool. Running it back.
All right. Yeah. We're gonna get Coop back in the room, but yes. And talk about victory even further. Let's see, man. Where we at with that? We got Notorious
Where we at?
Thugs. Yeah. You better now. We're good. We're good. So you
Okay.
were talking about the
Okay.
victory verse, which legend has it was the last verse that Biggie ever recorded in life,
Right. Right.
night
That's
before
what.
his untimely demise.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a mark of where he was going, because I mean, what you're seeing is somebody that was able to put flows and ideas together within bars seamlessly now. You know what I mean? He was flipping like every two bars into a different idea, into a different theme, but he was keeping it consistent and keeping you entertained. So he
Mm-hmm.
was definitely going somewhere with it. Like absolutely.
All right, well, we got victory here, man, and we got I see kicking the door. A lot of y'all got what our list is, man. Coop's gonna go down the list real quick. We got
I
10
was about to
crack
say,
commandments here. We got the last verse on Long Kiss Goodnight. There's absolutely
that,
no way I can narrow down to one verse, says Tory Bird. Niggas bleed. Yo,
see, I told you.
go ahead,
Those
man.
stories.
Go ahead and
Yeah.
start
So
going down the
hold
list
on,
of what we
yeah,
got.
yeah. Let's go through our list. So what
Yeah.
me and Mike did is me and Mike pretty much compiled our own separate list, and the ones that matched up, we definitely took. Me and Mike had 8 of the same verses lined up, so it actually wasn't hard to do this list. It's usually tougher when we do a list. That's a mark of how great Biggie is. It's like we both like knew his great shit. Like I mean, Mike, you texted me earlier and was like, "You got Everyday Struggle verse 2?" I was like, "Yeah, that's the 5th verse I wrote down." And
Yeah.
so we're gonna go through the list right quick. I got Who Shot You verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
We got Everyday Struggle verse 2. We got both of his verses on You Can't Stop the Rain. We pretty much just got him on You Can't Stop the Rain, period. His verse on Players Anthem. The Get Money remix.
Mm.
You're Nobody Till Somebody Kills You verse 1. I want to talk about the Get Money remix again
Okay.
when we get a moment. We got Kicking the Door verse 1. The What verse 2. Victory. Long Kiss Goodnight verse 1.
Mm.
And that's the 10. But then we also had we talked about the verse on All About the Benjamins. and we specifically talked about warning and 10 crack commandments, and you picked verse 1 on One More Chance. I picked verse 3 on One More Chance, and then we got to talking about verse 2, and then we was like, yo, that's the whole record. That's one of the best rap songs ever, if not the best rap song ever. And Mike, the fact that we're having that type of argument where you picked verse 1, I picked verse 3, and then we started talking about verse 2, that's best song ever type of stuff.
The thing about One More Chance Remix to me is the fact that it's such a dope record that you don't even realize how hard this man spit. You know what I'm saying? Like,
ridiculous there.
Yeah, it's like you're listening to the song and just moving and grooving to the song, and the fact that it sounds good and the hook is in place and he sounds right on the record, you're not even realizing how hard he's going on that record.
me at 12. Where you at? Flipping jaws, playing car notes
while I'm swimming
and you're winning like the breaststroke. Right stroke, left stroke was the best stroke. Death stroke, tongue all down the throat.
And then you just jump in there like first things first, eye popper, freaks, all the honeys, dummies, Playboy bunnies, those wanting money. Those are the ones I like because they don't get Nathan but penetration. Unless it smells like sanitation, garbage, I turn like doorknobs. Heartthrob never, black and ugly as ever. However, I'm like, dude, this guy keeps going. Rings and watch filled with rocks. And my jam knocks in the Mitsubishi. Girls peepee when they see me. Navajos creep me, then they TP. As I lay down laws like Alan Coppett. Stop it if you think you're going to make a profit. Don't see my one, don't see my gun.
Mike, let's stop it too. It's like he made you kind of check your facts for the first time on that record in a way that he hadn't before. Because I'm like, well, who was Alan Coffett? I think he was the mayor of New York at the time, but you had to look it up to find out what he was talking about. That was the type of thing that only Nas was really doing on record, where you like made you look up the names of people because his spit game on it was so ridiculous. It made you want to know who he was talking about. So like he was somewhere. Yeah.
And I was so young when these records came out and they were on the radio like all the time. And so like when you get older and you really get more into rap and lyricism, you're like, this dude was spitting on these records. Like, this ain't just some regular radio stuff. Like, he was going in. And One More Chance is one of those moments. And it was funny that you said the third verse because the first verse always sticks out to me because I know he was talking about in one article, I think it was in The Source, he was talking about the original One More Chance and how he was spitting on that first verse. And he was.
No. So I'm going to tell you what, my guy Hub, you know, who I've talked about on this show a couple times.
Right.
He used to always tell me in high school that he always thought that his spit game on the original One More Chance was actually better. And it is a pretty great record. It's something that like deserves some honorable mention. But I mean, he's just epic on the remix, Mike. He's just epic. Isn't this great? Flight leaves at 8, my flight lands at 9, my game just rewind. Lyrically, I'm supposed to represent. I'm not only a client, I'm the player president. Like, he's just stupid throughout the record, Mike. There's quotables and bars and wittiness and delivery and flows. It's like and this is what I was about to say, Mike. He is the Mike Jordan of rap in this sense, Mike. He actually performed his best when it was required of him to perform his best. He's actually at his best in the biggest moments, on the biggest singles, on the biggest records, on other people's shit, on the shit that needs to bang.
You're right.
He's at his best. He's the only MC that I can think of when I was going back and looking at his catalog today. I'm like, yo, he's the best on the biggest records. Like, he's the best on One More Chance. He's the best on Who Shot You. He's the best on the second verse. Like on the best tracks, Mike, he's the best.
For a lot of people, he was the highlight on Notorious Thugs, you know?
That's what I mean, Mike. He's the best.
And you know what? I think it's fair to say that his verse on Notorious Thugs, at least for a couple of years after that, it kind of set the blueprint for New York rappers that were coming with that, you know, that fast flow. They were kind of using that cadence, that whole Armed and Dangerous, Ain't No Women Can't Bang With, like that was like the cadence to go to for New York MCs that was trying to flip their flow a little bit. Now I know you said we wanted to go back to the remix, the Get Money remix verse. What an incredible verse! Have you finished the You finished
Yeah,
the
yeah.
list.
That was. I mean, we went past Mike. I mean, he's so great. We
Yeah.
couldn't narrow it down to 10 verses for one, and then we not only went to 11 verses, but then we got into 3 songs after that, and then there's like honorable mention stuff. And think about how short his catalog is. That it's like we couldn't even get like a concise top 10 verses, and
Yeah.
then we got songs after it. And it's like I just told you, Mike. I was like, you brought up I Got a Story to Tell. I brought up Niggas Bleed.
Yeah.
That didn't even make.
Yeah, I mean, somebody
Nice.
just said that Somebody Gotta Die is one of my favorite storytelling songs ever. And you know what?
No,
Before we get into that, and I think that's an interesting thing to bring up, where does Biggie stand when it comes to storytelling MCs? Because I have him very high. I have him
I
like
mean,
right after Nas, for me
I'm about to
personally.
say, Mike, I have him like, I mean, I would probably go Nas, Big Scarface, or like Big and Scarface at a tie, Slick Rick and Ice Cube and Ghostface like somewhere in there. I mean, it's the same people I've been saying, but I have him actually like right there with Nas. Like when I look at Nas's best stories, I can put Biggie's best stories right next to him, even though I think Nas is a slightly better storyteller because he's just a slightly more detailed writer.
I was gonna
Big
say,
is
I think Nas is just very, very detailed. I guess
not
I go about it a little different. I say
not hold on, hold
Scarface,
on.
Ghostface, Nas, Big, and Slick Rick.
So I would probably go Nas, and I would probably put Big and Scarface at a tie, and then I would go Ghostface. I know I would go Slick Rick and then Ghostface after that. Because you want to know, hey Mike, just real quick, and I know we're talking about Big, but 2 Slick Rick records actually came up today while I was riding around, and I realized that other than Paid in Full, The Greatest Adventures of Slick Rick, I think is the only other rap album that has 4 of the 100 greatest rap songs ever on it.
I agree. We're talking about A Children's Story. You're
Yep,
talking about Mona Lisa, I would
correct,
imagine, right? Um,
correct.
you're talking about Hey Young World,
Yep, that's what was playing today. Yeah.
and I guess what Young
Teenage Love.
Teenage Love.
Teenage Love would fall on the back end, but I
Uh
think
huh.
it would still make it because it would still probably qualify as like a top 5-ish rap love song ever.
No, I
Yeah.
agree. I agree. You
Yeah.
know, and that's very
So
special in that light.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
but yes, the
So
Get Money
so
remix verse.
yeah, yeah, the Get Money remix verse, Mike. So I guess for me, and I guess for a lot of cats around Charlotte, I told you Charlotte's always had a strong New York base. Nas was always considered the superior lyricist and MC Big when I was growing up very early on when both of their albums dropped. And the Get Money remix for me was like the shift where it's kind of like I heard somebody that wasn't like as lyrically inclined as Nas still, but because of all the things that he brought to the table, was just as good as Nas. And I think Nas at the time was probably the best rapper that anybody had ever heard. I think you and I have always had that conversation like that 94, 95, 90, 94, 95, 96 Nas is the
Yeah.
best rapper ever. Big on that Get Money remix in 95, like he's just as good as Nas. And that's like the first time you hear evidence of it. His flow is ridiculous. He's entertaining. He's witty. He gets kind of personal for the first time, even though it, albeit briefly, you
Yeah.
know. And so it's just a masterful verse, you know.
I
Guns, I
mean,
bust some
yeah.
problems with my wife. Don't discuss some coops and Learjets. I lust them. Fingerprints, I dust them.
I mean, I would
Yeah.
even go back to the part where he was like Brooklyn in the house, and then when he comes in with the rhyme scheme, like without a
Yeah. Yeah,
doubt,
that's
I'm
what
the
I
rapper
mean.
with clout. Everybody yap
Everybody
about,
yap
check it
about,
out.
check it
It's
out,
like,
done.
yo,
So,
that's
so,
different.
so people need to understand something. Some of the rhyme patterns that Big started like creating, what he was doing
Yeah,
on the beat, it's like we hadn't heard somebody do it on the beat like that before. We are used to cats rapping on top of the beat. We were used to cats weaving in the beat, around the beat. Big was kind of the first person to kind of treat the beat like a punching bag. It's like the beat hit, Big he hit the beat back.
well, yeah,
You know what
and
I'm saying?
somebody in the chat is bringing up Everyday Struggle verse, and yeah, and that's what he did on there. Is like, you know,
Yeah,
her
he hit the
Ted got
beat back.
murdered in a town I never heard of a nigga. You know what I'm saying? Like,
No, that's what I'm saying.
it's
It's like he's beating the beat back up like a beat machine, like a drum kick, like a snare, like he's in tune with the rhythm enough that like his rhyme style and pattern is a beat and a rhythm and a melody unto itself. And that's why it's so pleasing to hear Big, because Big is very rhythmic and very melodic. Even when he's going fast, he's doing it so well that even on a fundamental sense, you really don't understand what you're listening to until you have time to listen to it over and over again and dissect it. He's probably more rhythmically inclined than any MC I've ever heard, which is why his delivery is so sick, Mike.
And Antoine Dennis is bringing up Suicidal Thoughts. Is such an amazing track. And yeah, so he could do all those things, but he could also do the Scarface thing too and make you feel and, you know, and be haunting in that way. I think Big is just I don't want to say, I don't want to sound disrespectful or anything, but just a very, very skilled Scarface. You know what I'm saying? Like, lyrically, you know, just somewhere else as far as his patterns. You know what I mean? Because Face didn't pay attention to patterns and stuff like that. He was telling his story and he told it in the way he told it. Big was able to kind of convey those things and still hit you with those schemes and those rhyme patterns. And he could also do the party joints. He had so much in under his belt. And I think that Jay-Z has really kind of taken the blueprint that Big set of being able to do all types of records. But I don't think Jay could make you feel, he couldn't do a Suicidal Thoughts and be as believable as Big.
No, so I guess that's the thing with Jay is that, like, you know, Jay walked into the game as like the guy that pulled up on the block. Like, on Everyday Struggle, Big is letting you know you're dealing with the guy that's on the block, and thereby there's something that's more inherently always more relatable about Big than there is with Jay. And that's what I've always told people. It's like, oh, well, I prefer Big because I think Big has a better delivery and he's a better storyteller, but it's more relatable. Like things that Big is talking about when you first hear him, like on Things Done Change for like Mike, you brought up Things Done Change, the third verse, when he was like, my mama got cancer in her breast. Don't ask me why I'm motherfucking stressed. Things done change. The streets is a short stop. Either you're slinging crack rock or you got a wicked jump shot. Like, Jay doesn't necessarily provide you with things like that. He has, like, later on in his career, but Big kind of came in with a certain type of depth that you could relate to as somebody that was from the streets or from the block or that was going through things. Jay kind of pulled up with money because he really did pull up, Mike, with money.
And it was a different perspective that, like you said, it's not as relatable as somebody like Big. I mean, Big came in the door with a record like Juicy that was super relatable.
Mike, he talking about, you know, the crack smoke make my brain feel so strange. Like, you know what I mean? Like that line is saying a whole lot, Mike. It's letting you know that he's going through something because it's letting you know he's abusing the product that he's selling. You know, he tells you on 10 Crack Commandments, number 4, I know you heard this before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you can see the depths of what he's going through, even when you hear him on the 10 Crack Commandments explaining it. It's like, oh, that's the dude on Everyday Struggle that was using the supply, though. He's letting you know the depths of where he was in the game, too.
Yeah, I agree. The verse that I do want to talk about, too, I know you said Stop the Rain.
Yeah, pick one. Can't stop, won't stop.
He just sounded so comfortable on there to me, like, you know, and the fact, all right, it's a Shaq record, you know what I'm saying? Like, first of all, it's Shaq. And, you know, Shaq can rap, but Shaq is Shaq. And at the time, Shaq was the biggest thing in basketball, other than Michael Jordan, of course. And for Big to take that record that serious and he laced it. He smashed it, man. And again,
that's what I mean about how he really is Mike Jordan, because it's like, even though Shaq's not the greatest rapper in the world, like you said, like at the time, Mike, I mean, probably short of Mike. I mean, at the time when Big did that record with Shaq, who's bigger in sports than Michael Jordan other than Shaq at that time?
And Shaq was super marketable and stuff too. You know what?
That's what I'm saying.
I'm looking down because I'm actually reading the lyrics for Everyday Struggle, and in relation, as much as I love Everyday Struggle, you just hear how much better Big got on.
He's just more polished.
He's polished.
He's so polished.
I think he said it best on, you know, What's Beef, and he was like, I was grinding in the early 90s, far behind me. It ain't hard to find me. I mean, dude.
I thought about What's Beef, Mike. I mean, What's Beef is one of his best songs. I mean, What's Beef is a masterpiece.
It
Not too many
is.
people can rap over that beat, Mike.
Yeah.
That's a great beat, but not too many people can rap on that beat. You understand what I'm saying?
I
Not
mean, in his
well.
short career, I mean, because I feel like there's nobody in music, period, that's done more with 2 albums in their career than Big.
Nobody.
How
Yeah,
many of
no.
those records have been redone? Like you think about the whole "What's Beef" and when Meek did that with Jay and and Ross, Rick Ross did over Nobody to Somebody Kills You. It's so much in Big's catalog, in his short catalog, that has been done over. And you know what? I don't even believe his catalog, even though he has 2 albums and a double album in there too. I don't think his catalog is as short as people try to make it seem amongst his peers because the level of quality is so high and the features that he did were, like you said, they were blockbuster features.
That's what I mean, Mike. So some of his best stuff that we're even naming, it's not his stuff. Like the verse on Victory, that's for Puff's album. The Get Money remix, Players Anthem, that's for Junior Mafia. You Can't Stop the Rain is for Shaq. Mike, we didn't even get to the Only You remix or Can't You See?
Yeah.
That's what I mean. He really is Mike Jordan. It's like, oh no, when the lights are the brightest, like that dude shows up and he doesn't just give you his normal. It's like what Mike averaged for his career, like 30.1, but in the playoffs, he averaged like 33, 34. That's
Yeah.
big. It's like he out here giving you 30, but then it's playoff time and it's like he going to go give you 35, 40. It's like, what can you say? I mean, Mike, if he would have lived, he probably would have gone down easily as the greatest MC of all time because that's where he was trending towards.
Yeah. More Money, More Problems is another record that, he got on. He killed it. This is a Diana Ross I'm Coming Out sample. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like at the time, when you look at it, rappers of his skill set and of his caliber weren't getting on these bright and happy samples and
So
killing it, and I agree with you. I feel like if he lived and he continued on the pace he was going, it's no doubt in my mind he'd be the greatest rapper ever. No doubt.
So, Mike, we've always we've actually asked ourselves. It's like, yo, don't nobody want smoke with Snoop in the verses? Actually, Mike, there's somebody who does. This is the guy with the records that could give Snoop the smoke. I realized that when I started writing down his records today. He's the one with the street bangers and the hit records, and the other dude, other than Snoop, who knows the record comes on, Mike, and everybody knows the words. It's like when you bring up More Money, More Problems. Oh no, the ladies know the words too. How it go, Mike? BIGGE PPA, no info for the DEA, federal agents, mad because I'm flagrant. Like even the ladies know it, Mike, and he's
Yeah.
the one guy that has it like that. So I think he's probably the only guy that's made the type of records that actually can touch those Snoop records from The Chronic and from Doggy Style.
And you
That's
know
how
what's
epic
interesting
these records
too?
are.
Because Snoop leaned on ghostwriting too. I mean, he could play some of the records that he wrote on Hardcore or the stuff that he wrote for Puff, and you're right. I think that if we
Just
keeping it
his stuff is
real,
enough. His stuff is enough.
if we keep it real, you're right. His stuff is enough. But
His stuff is
I
enough.
think that right now, and not to be too crazy, I think Big could beat Nas and Jay in a verses right
No,
now.
Mike, when I pulled up the list of just the songs that are his greatest verses, I was thinking about how these songs would sound live. And I was like, oh, everybody is in trouble. Because here's the thing about it, Mike. It's like when you play Nothing But a G Thing and then you play One More Chance, oh,
Yeah, yeah,
no. And so that's saying something. And Mike, that's without him pulling out Big Papa, Hypnotize, or More Money, More Problems. Mike, that's not counting the street records. That's not Who Shot You, 10 Crack Commandments, Warning, or Kicking the Door.
yeah.
The heat is everywhere. Mike, that's not counting the guest appearances. Only You Can't Stop the Rain, Can't You See, Victory.
I mean,
He's got everything, Mike. What you want? What you want, Mike?
I mean, in the
What you
verses,
want?
if he pulled out that,
What you want, Mike? Mike,
yeah,
if Nas pull up with the stories, it's like he's the only guy that can really give Nas heat with the stories. It's just his detail, because it's like if Nas plays the setup, no, he got niggas bleed. If Nas plays Blaze of 50, he's got I Got a Story to Tell. If Nas plays Drunk by Myself, he's got Everyday Struggle. If Nas plays Rewind, You know what I'm saying? He's
Yeah.
got somebody gotta die. Like he's got something that can fuck with it. So he's
He
got
got
something for
Warning.
everybody, man. He
Yeah.
got Warning. Yeah, he's got
Yeah.
something for everybody.
I
Mike, he
mean,
got something for
yeah,
Jay. He got
you
something
got
for
me
Snoop. He got
stuck at
something for
that
Nas.
Total remix though. If he go out there with that, like, I think
What you
Big,
gonna do,
and it's
Mike?
so crazy, man, with 2 albums and a slew of
Mike,
appearances and a Junior
Mike,
Mafia album. This nigga's unbeatable. Get
hold on,
Money?
Mike. Mike, we not talking about to say, Mike, we not even talking about the original version to Get Money. We could play his original version and his remix verses. Both of those are epic.
Now
And
I think
everybody,
the original
Mike,
song's better, personally.
the original song is better. The
Yeah.
remix verse is better. But
Yeah.
how about this, Mike? More people even know the first verse. Everybody know that verse too, Mike. You want to sip Mo on my living room floor, play Nintendo with Seasonino, pick up the phone, say Papa not home, sex all night, mad head in the moan, spend money, smoke all my weed, tattoo on TT saying BIG. Now check it. You want to be my main squeeze, baby? Mike, I ain't heard that record in like 5 years, and I know it word for word. It's epic.
Well, you should have
He's
been up
epic.
there other than Rich Homie Quan. He went up there and messed up the record.
I ain't even,
But yeah,
we
it's
gonna get
crazy.
back to
Yeah,
that.
and Troy Boyd said, "I told y'all in that 5 year span, Biggie has greatness has trumped anybody." And it's crazy because we're talking about shit. Really, technically, we could say 94 to 97. So
Right.
what?
How about this?
94, 5, 6, 7. We're talking about a 4 year span, really.
I mean, I think for me, if you really want to talk just like song catalog wise, it took probably Nas and Jay about 5 to 6 albums worth of material to accumulate what he accumulated, and I guess what you would technically call 3 albums worth of material with the double album. So he literally did what the guys who are considered to be the 2 greatest MCs of all time in most people's opinion, he literally did what they did in about half the body work worth of time in terms of their epic stuff. And so there's something to be said for that.
And you know what? That's something for people to think about who feel like, because Big has 2 albums that he's not in the greatest conversation. I think that he is such an outlier in a sense where not only was he groundbreaking in the way that he was approaching records, and like I said, he had these hit records that have legs, that were radio records that have stood the test of time, but he was spitting on them. And at that time, the greatest MCs or the best MCs weren't spitting their shit like that on radio records. They still don't, And the fact that he was able to do that in that time period and be really ahead of the curve in that sense, and you could tell that the game followed him even after he was gone. Because like I said, Jay picked up where he left off and took that baton, and everything that we praise Jay for, his versatility, working with different producers, having hit records and having street records, Big did that before him.
Where do you think he got it from, Mike?
Of course.
I mean, he watched Life After Death get made.
Yeah. And speaking of which, we got a question in the chat that said, what's your favorite Biggie album?
Mike, for a long time, it was Ready to Die because of the relatability and because of the feel. It is just so hard to ignore the Mike performance on Life After Death. It is hard to ignore Mike.
Speak on it, man, because I know you were telling me about this when we were working on our master class, and that was one of the albums that you were assigned to. And you went as far as to saying it was one of the best hip-hop albums ever made.
It is, Mike, because when I'm talking about he has smoke for Snoop with the Chronic and Doggy Style stuff, most of the smoke is actually on Life After Death, Mike. So let's run it down. I mean, what do you want? You want storytelling? Well, let's just go to disc 1 on the storytelling. Somebody gotta die, niggas bleed, and I got a story to tell. Storytelling doesn't get better than that short of Nas, in my opinion, or Slick Rick on The Greatest Adventures of Slick Rick, as in not even Slick Rick in its totality, as in Slick Rick on that album. Like, that's how great those stories are. What do you want, Mike? Do you want hit records? You want bangers? Can I introduce you to Hypnotize? More Money, More Problems. You know what I'm saying? Like, Mike, those are big, big records. Mike, he's got what I like to call some mid-level bangers on there. Like, I Love the Dough with Jay, another with Little Kim. I'm going back to Cali. Mike, you want street records, Mike? 10 Crack Commandments. What's beef? Mike, we already said this is the best ending to an album ever.
Oh,
Mike,
yeah,
The
yeah,
World Is Filled, My Downfall, Long Kiss Goodnight.
yeah.
You're nobody till somebody kills you, Mike. No album has ever ended with 4 songs that strong. Those songs are all classics, as in instant classics, as in you remember when you heard them, you're like, like you were like, what can I say about Fam? He's better than everybody. That's how you felt at the end of Life After Death. And so most of the smoke that I'm telling you that he has is actually on Life After Death. The depth is on Ready to Die. So you're
But
gonna get your depth on Ready to Die.
not to get away from Life After Death, but you still didn't even mention Notorious Thugs. You didn't mention the record with R. Kelly, which was a big record too.
Yeah, or
Um,
Sky's the Limit, Mike. That's what I'm saying.
or Sky's the Limit, or What's Beef. I don't think you
No,
mentioned
I
it.
mentioned What's Beef on the
Okay,
Street Bangers. What's
yeah.
Beef and 10 Crack Commandments
Did you
for me.
mention
And it's
Kick in the Door? You did, yeah.
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 No, I don't think I did, Mike. That's what's crazy. You know what? Kick in the Door was the song that I heard before the album came out, where I was like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like somebody done pissed Big Boy off. Like he
The
be
rain
spitting
on the
crazy.
top was short like leprechauns, as I crushed so-called Willie's thugs and Rapadon.
Rapadons.
Get in that ass quick fast like Ramadan.
It's like Ramadan. It's the rap phenomenon. Don Dada, fuck Papa. You gotta call me Francis MH. White intake like totes, tote iron. Was told in shootout, stay low and keep firing. Keep extra clips for extra shit. Who's next to flip on that cat with that grip on rap? The most shady. Mike, he switched his whole flow up. Frankie, baby, ain't no telling where I may be. May see me in DC. Mike, he took his whole flow down 2 levels and switched it.
He was super skilled, man.
He was super skilled.
I mean, before people were skilled like that. Like
people were skilled like that. Cats weren't doing like that on record, Mike. Cats weren't stopping on record, pausing, putting the car in reverse, and then driving the car again differently in the middle of the verse. The shit crazy.
And you know what? It's crazy when you sit there and look at it song for song and everything that he was able to do on that record and how diverse that album is. It's hard to actually say that Ready to Die is better than that album. But for people who say
Ready to Die has Ready to Die has the depth, Mike. Ready to Die has the depth.
That's what it
lets
is.
you inside the mind of Big, like the tracks Ready to Die, Give Me the Loot, Machine Gun Funk, Everyday Struggle, Things Done Change. Those tracks have a depth and a feel that make you like Big and relate to Big. Like, no, I know, fam. You know what I'm saying?
I think that it's a situation where an artist like himself, once he's removed from the pain, you can't get those records like you used to. Like, you can't get those records unless he's still in the streets.
He didn't want to make those records, Mike. He was like, what am I going to rap about? He's like, I'm not selling crack no more. He's like, I'm wearing Versace and gold every day, doing shows with Puff. Like, I ain't supposed to be rapping about selling crack. That's how the 10 Crack Commandments came to be, Mike. He knew he couldn't rap about selling crack per se because he wanted to keep it authentic. And so he wrote about what he went through when he was selling crack.
Someone in the chat says Chuck D had a huge problem with the 10 Crack Commandments. I understand Chuck D's problem with it.
No.
I get it.
It's not still a problem. It got solved.
Yeah, it got solved. But I think initially with the issue, it's like, it's just Chuck D. And, we all know what Public Enemy stood for. And to use his vocals on a record that's telling people how to sell crack, I could understand a problem being there, But you're right. It was solved. And even with Bad Boy, Puff was able to make Public Enemy #1 over with Chuck's consent, and everybody's good.
Well, I think it was more with Preem than it was with Chuck, and I think Chuck got a very sizable check from Preem, and a long conversation made that situation okay. What I would submit to the situation and say is that, like that record, although Chuck may not agree with the record, it's very important to the culture because, quite frankly, Big is speaking to a faction of people who are tied to this culture, so he's speaking to his tribe, and you can never, we just got to be mindful about how we censor each other, and Chuck know all about that. And so he
Of
may not
course.
like the message. So he may not like the message, but it's like, there's some artistic and creative license to be had too. You know,
Yeah, it's a slippery slope. It's like,
it's
okay,
slippery. Yeah, it's slippery.
it's like, okay, if you would have asked me to be a part of this song, I probably would have declined. But my voice is on there. It's kind of like a Prince thing, right? Like, let's just say if Prince didn't agree with the direction of a certain record and somebody used his vocals and put it on that record anyway. I mean, not saying anyone asked anybody ahead of time, but you know what I mean. It's a problem
I
then,
mean, I mean,
because again,
yeah.
Prince wouldn't even do his own records that he didn't agree with after and when he was mentally at a certain place. You know what I mean?
I get you, Mike. You know how I feel about Prince, though. So it's like just comparing him to a rapper to me. But I get what you're saying,
You know
though.
what I mean? Just principles.
No, I
I'm
get what you're saying.
comparing principles.
No. The principle is inherently the same. That's why I'm just gonna go ahead and let it slide. But
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
levels to this.
But yeah, on top of that though, I mean, I just think that you know what I didn't like? I didn't like Primo getting on Moment of Truth ranting about it when I could understand again this was more of a principle thing than people just not wanting a person's samples to be used.
I think Preem is just talking about let the quality of the music speak. Like if the record is dope, like you know what I'm saying, let's talk business, let's have a conversation, let's keep it moving for the culture. If the streets say the record, I think Preem is kind of understated. I don't think people understand how much Preem really thrives on providing the streets with what they need, and that's an important record for the streets. And I think that's just what he was stressing.
And also, I mean, I don't even think this was too much of a problem with Preem. I could be wrong. I think this was more of a thing where Bad Boy was selling all these records and was, shining and flossing and all of that. And it's like, okay, well, you use my vocals, like you said, cut the check. I think that's the other part of it. And I don't even think that was on Preem for the most part. I think that was more so on Bad Boy and how Bad Boy was
But that's
moving
what
at
I'm
the
saying
time.
about. But the thing with Preem being like about the streets is that even though that might have been a Bad Boy Puff thing too, Preem being who he is the one that kind of made that situation solid with Chuck because he know who Chuck and Public Enemy is to the culture and to him. You feel me? Like Preem
Right.
wanted to make that solid even if Bad Boy and Puff didn't.
All right, well, let's try to narrow down some of these verses, right? What
Right.
would you say of all these verses we have picked here? Is it possible to even pick the best one?
Ooh. Mike, that verse on All About the Benjamins is pretty special.
Victory's
That's
my
the
pick, but okay.
just because Mike, I don't think people understand that was the best verse of Kim's career. And he just
Oh
came
yeah,
on right after him.
oh yeah. I mean, fuck a state pen, fuck hoes in Penn State.
The Penn State, listen
Like I said,
closest
people
friends.
weren't really doing that. Like, people
No,
weren't really.
people weren't. I don't think people understand. People weren't doing that. Like that's the verse to me. When I just like every time I hear that verse, I'm like, oh my god, like
Yeah,
that guy is just he's stunning. And
yeah,
so that's the verse that probably sticks out to me. That the "You're Nobody Till Somebody Kills You" verse, Mike, it's just chilling.
yeah. It
And it's the
is.
last. It's just chilling. There's something about that verse.
That one holds a
The
special place. I'm gonna put a star by that one.
Mike, for the heads, Mike, I think that "Who Shot You" verse, Mike, that
Mm.
just means something if you're a head, because for a lot of people, that was like, it was like, ooh, like that. He was just so, he was so eerie and so sinister on there, Mike, but he was so clever. He was just different, Mike. That was what I mean. It's like he hit the beat back. Who shot you?
Separate the
Separate the
weak from
weak from the opsa, leap hard to creep, them Brooklyn streets. Like he was punching the beat back, Mike. Cats didn't really rap like that.
I can hear sweat trickling down your
And
cheek.
down your
Your
cheek.
heartbeat sound like Sasquatch feet. Thundering, shaking the
Shaking in the
concrete.
concrete.
Yeah.
Then it stopped when I foiled the plot. Neighbors called the cops, said they heard mad shots.
Seeming in the drop, 3 1/4. Slaughter, electrical tape around the door. Old school, new school, need to learn though. Whew.
Burn, baby, burn. like Disco Inferno. Yeah, that's what I'm saying, Mike. It's hard to pick because when he's in his zone is like, you know, even that verse on the what, Mike, like at the end with the, you know, flows just roll through me like trees to branches, cliffs to avalanches. It's the praying mantis, deep like the mind of Farrakhan. A motherfucking rap phenomenon.
Yeah.
Stellar. Mike, he's the only rapper I've ever hung on my wall for a reason. I've never hung any other rapper on my wall. Not even Nas, not Rakim. He's the only rapper I've ever hung on my wall.
I think the thing about him too. Right. I think the thing about him too, man, and it was really tough, and it's even tougher to narrow down verses even more. The quality is all across the board. I don't think I've ever heard a whack Biggie verse, or a verse where Big was just lackluster or whatever, and it's like he effortlessly was giving you quality verses, verse after verse.
So on Ready to Die, he's more captivating and entertaining than he is breathtaking as an MC. But you have enough breathtaking moments that you can kind of see what's coming, like the vocal switch on "Give Me the Loot," the delivery on the what, the verse on "Everyday Struggle," the whole delivery and rhyme pattern and scheme, the unbelievable.
Yeah, we forgot about Unbelievable.
No, I didn't, Mike. You want to know what? For me, that track was super important because I literally, like, that track specifically, that was the first time I had ever heard somebody rap like that style-wise. That's what I'm saying. I heard Unbelievable before I heard Who Shot You, and it's like he's hitting the beat back. It's like every time Primo drops the beat, it's like Big's there punching the beat back. Live from Bedford Stuyvesant, the livest one. Representing BK to the fullest. Gats, I pull it. Bastards ducking when bid be bucking. Chicken heads clucking in my back room fucking. It ain't nothing. Like, you never heard nobody kind of like pause, stutter. Like, yeah.
And it was rhyme on rhyme on rhyme on rhyme.
And he was just rhyming, Mike. Yeah, it was like, oh my God. It's like, this dude's bananas. And it wasn't like he's like Nas bananas, like blowing your mind bananas. It's like, yo, it was almost like, what he doing? Like, ain't nobody... Like, what he hearing?
We're nerding out on some Big right now, man, on Big's birthday. Big would have been 49 years old today, so bear with us as we nerd out on some great Biggie verses. We're trying to narrow down the top 10 Biggie verses. I don't even know if we're going to get to a top 5. We just have a group of verses that are just super dope.
Mike.
You know, that one song that you don't even like, the Nasty Boy song, he killed that.
I knew you were going to... Mike, you want to know what else I thought about today, too? His verse on The World is Filled. Everybody knows that verse, too. When the Remy's in the system, ain't no telling, will I fuck him, will I diss him? That's what these hoes yelling, I'm a pimp by blood, not relation. Y'all, hold on, what do he say? Y'all still chase on? I replace them. Drunk off dumb.
Well, we know why everybody knows that verse.
Skunk or tie. Nigga, player against a player. Shit, slugs gon' fly. Ain't gon' lie. Pimp down her SSI. Nigga, don't ask why. Just respect it. She bought me the bracelet, the necklace, the benzo. She laced it. Cribbo got it. Interior decorated. Now my popularity grew in each state. Now I pop brewing. Man, he's stupid. All the
What about Young G's? What about Young G's?
Ooh, you want to know what? I forgot about Young G's. I like Ho's verse on Young G's, Mike.
Yeah. Man, I mean, it's just so much. I remember Pusha T talking about Young G's and talking about that when shit, I'm tripping. Clip's second album, Brain Fart.
The flow running on Big's heels?
No, not Big Deal. But, you know, Clip's...
He'll Have No Fury?
Yeah, He'll Have No Fury. I'm sorry. Yeah. Push said that he was trying to channel Big in that whole album. And, you know, and Young G's was a big one. I know he highlighted that as one of his favorite verses, period.
Delivery-wise, Mike, there aren't too many better performances than Pusha T's delivery performance on Hell Hath No Fury, so he channeled him well. That's when I was like, oh shit, like I was really a fan of theirs on Lord Willin', but when I heard them on Hell Hath No Fury, and in particular the way his delivery had went up like 4 or 5 notches, I was like, oh my God, like he's like the best guy I hear right now.
And you know that's the interesting thing because when you talk about, and clearly Pusha T was consciously thinking about this, because when you talk about the jump that Big made from Ready to Die, even as great as Ready to Die is, as an MC and as an artist, the jump that he made from this first album to the second album, that's an incredible jump. And Pusha T's jump from Lord Willing to Hell Hath No Fury is incredible. Like I was
Yeah,
listening to Lord Willing the other day, just listening to it. Like I just put on Virginia, and then I just started playing the album, and I'm like, Malice was clearly better than Pusha T at that point. And then and then the song that was on that barbershop soundtrack came out, Pussy, and all I know was growing up with remote control, not my whole life remote control. Hit the block dope. I was like, yo, who is this?
so Mike, just real quick, and I know this is a big thing, but it's like you're absolutely right. Like Malice was the one that you were checking for after Lord Willin'. He's clearly the superior MC on Lord Willin'. You're right, Mike. The track Pussy and what happened to that boy, I was like, who is that? I was like, what? I was like, because he was a good ass rapper on Lord Willing. He's an all-time great rapper. Like he went from being a dope rapper to being like an all-time great rapper in like a year and a half. And I was like, what the? And I'm listening to him on Hell Hath No Fury. And Mike, this is around the time that Jay is coming out with Kingdom Come, and Nas is coming out with Hip Hop Is Dead, and Game is coming out with Doctor's Advocate. I'm like, give me that guy though. Give me that guy.
Yeah, and you know, it's like I remember reading an article at that time too, and Pharrell was talking about the jump that Pusha made. And this was, like I said, when Pussy was out. And this is when Jive kept pushing back Hell Hath No Fury. And so
Pussy was supposed to be the first single off Hell Hath No Fury, not Mr. Me Too.
Yeah. Oh my God, I'm gonna listen to that song tonight, man. I ain't in the cat gripping, I'm in the cat dripping, the Max spitting, it's a cat dripping. Know what I mean? That shit was hard, man.
Crazy.
Yeah, but yeah, when you talk about big jumps, and I think that Big clearly was a influence on Pusha T in that jump from Lord Willing to Hell Hath No Fury, because when you listen to, and somebody mentioned Sky's the Limit earlier, I think Sky's the Limit is indicative of how much mature Big had become as an MC from the first album to the next. And it's incredible because, like you said, he was a dope MC on the first one, but he was something else on the second one. He was even more comfortable. And I think another example of that too is listening to the regular One More Chance and listen to the remix. He's a whole different rapper. And this is probably like a year span. Because what, One More Chance remix dropped in like 95?
So do you want to know what happened, Mike? Is that this is what I mean, is like he's the first dude that I ever heard like punch the beat back, but as he got more skilled, he learned when to punch the beat back. Like What's Beef is probably like a great example of that. It's like he doesn't go for his like all the way on that track. He spends more time like bobbing and weaving around the ring, but he punches when he needs to. He's learned, he's mastered it, he's got it down to a science. It's a sweet science of rap, just like it is with boxing. And in that ring, like there's never been anybody sweeter, really.
He's the most rounded MC I've ever heard.
Right.
You know, and I think that for me, lyrically, just being lyrically vicious, Rakim is that. He's the most lyrically vicious MC I've ever heard. But Big is the most rounded. Like, he could do anything. I never heard Big on a track that he didn't sound comfortable on. And that's what makes it even more sad. I would have loved to have heard Biggie over a Neptune track, over a Just Blaze track, working with Kanye West. You know what I'm saying? I would have loved to have heard him over Timbaland.
See, I don't know if I would have loved to hear him. I don't know if I would have loved to hear him go all over the place, because one thing about Life After Death, there are what I like to feel like are some stretches, and like he delivers, but how about this? Even on a record like Mo Money, Mo Problems, I don't know if Big delivers at that level if you give him all three verses. You feel me?
Well, Nasty Boy's another one that, like I said, you don't like it, but he came through. Like, I remember we went to Tennessee, then came home. Mad Messages was on my phone. Bitch named Simone, Scheme,
Mike, I'm not saying, I mean, Mike, I'm not saying he can't. The catalog says he can do anything that he
Hypnotized
wants.
too.
He can do it well.
And I don't even
Like I
like
like.
Hypnotize,
I'm
but
gonna say
he's snapping.
a lot of heads don't like Hypnotize. I like Hypnotize. He's spitting crazy on this. I told you, Mike, that last verse is crazy. I know you sick of this lame brand nigga with flows. Girls say he's sweet like licorice. So get with this nigga. It's easy.
Girlfriend,
Girlfriend, here's a pen. Call me round 10. Come through. Have sex on rugs. It's Persian. Like he talking so much cash shit, Mike.
Papa freaking, not speaking. Leave that ass leaking like rapper
Rap
demos.
the demos.
Come on,
Tell them
man.
hoes, take the clothes off slow.
He's
He just
comfortable, man. I don't, man. That's special. Like you don't hear people that comfortable on the mic. I
like
think
how
for
about
Jay,
this?
when I think about that and think about comfortability, I don't feel like the blueprint was Jay rapping at his best. I think he rapped better on Reasonable Doubt. I think even to a degree he rapped better on the blueprint too. But Jay sounds
And volume
very
one.
comfortable on the blueprint.
Yes.
He
And
sounds
so,
comfortable on Heart of the City. And that's Big like. You know what I'm saying? But Big did that every time around. You know what I'm saying?
he's. I mean, Mike, you can hear how super comfortable Jay is on the Blueprint 2 and the Black Album specifically, just like on the beats. It's like, oh, he can
Yeah.
do whatever he want now. I get it. You're right. Lyrically, Reasonable Doubt and Volume 1 for me are better performances than the Blueprint. But how about this? What Big, that's what I'm saying, Mike. What Jay, when did the Blueprint come out?
01, man.
Okay, so from
Big was
96 to
comfortable
01.
immediately.
Right. So, okay. So now I wouldn't say all the way immediately, Mike. So let's say Ready to Die comes out in 94, Mike. But by next summer with that Get Money verse in 95, in about a year, he's super comfortable and remains so, and it increased. So what it took about Jay 5 years to do, what it took Nas about 2 or 3 years to do, it took Big
1 year.
a year.
Because again, I think that mark of that song that we keep talking about, the One More Chance remix, that's when he got comfortable at that life after death level that you're talking about. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
That's
Getting Money remix. I mean, Mike, think about how many quotable verses of his we've just gone through. It
it's
still remains
remarkable, man. And I think that
remarkable.
I would love for somebody somehow to do a verses, and I don't even want it to be no Tupac and Biggie verses. I wanted to be with somebody who actually lived. I know we always try to pit Tupac, Biggie, or
No,
whatever. I
Mike.
want people to
Mike,
see
no.
how long
No,
these two albums stretch against people with like 6, 7 albums.
Mike, we missed our shot with Biggie and Snoop. That would have been the best pair up because it's like when you play something like Murder Was the Case, then you can play You're Nobody Till Somebody Kills You. Like I said, he's the only one that really has smoke for those records. He's the only one that has smoke. How about this, Mike? His voice is so heavy. His delivery is so sick. His songs are so epic, too. It's actually the only thing that offsets Snoop on those Dr. Dre beats. It offsets it. Because, Mike, when I say, like, Mike, is Murder Was the Case succinctly a better record than You're Nobody Till Somebody Kills You or My Downfall? It's like when I say that, it's like, oh, you don't know now, do you?
I don't know. I think Murder Was the Case would probably beat it, but I don't know. I mean, because
That's what I
Nobody Till
mean. But
Somebody
Biggie's the
Kill
only one
You.
that got smoke for those records, Mike, and he's got enough smoke. Like, is What's My Name by Snoop better than Hypnotize? Is it better
Yes.
than
I thought
is
you were
it
going to
better
say
than More
One More
Money, More
Chance or something.
Problems?
Yes, it
Is it
is.
better than Big Papa? I don't think it's
Now
better than
that
Big
I don't
Papa.
know.
See, that's what I'm saying. Big got smoke. I can go through records of his. He
Yeah.
got smoke. Even with that little bit, he got smoke. The
I
street
would put
records,
Get
the hit
Money
records,
against
records.
that even.
That's what I mean. He
Yeah.
got smoke, Mike.
Yeah.
Tons of it.
Yeah,
Whole
he has a
cigar
lot.
shop worth. Yeah.
And it's crazy when people always talk about him having only 2 albums. They can't put him in the top, whatever, whatever. I get that to a degree, but I think he's a special case because A, he has over 20 records that we're going to hear forever. And he has 2 perfect albums. Doesn't have a whack verse. And was trailblazing in the path that he was already in. And the guy that a lot of people call the greatest basically took his blueprint and ran with it. No pun intended.
I mean, he literally took some of his hooks on his second album.
Yeah.
Real niggas do real things and Face Off. This goes out to my Brooklyn crew. That's big shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bring 'em on in, bring 'em on. Yeah, that's
We don't
your nasty one. Yeah. I mean, and a slew of lines, but I do think that the lines were more about, showing props to, a fallen soldier. But regardless. Big was an original, and we can't take away.
No, it's great. I'm glad we actually did this show. You know, we had something else planned, but I'm glad that we're actually like doing this and celebrating the day that he was born instead of the day that he passed. I think in
Hmm.
this culture, we get too much of a morbid frame of mind due to trauma and the things that we suffer through, and we have a tendency to celebrate death more than life. And so let's get into the habit of celebrating when these icons were born and lived as
Yeah,
opposed to the day that we died.
totally
Yeah.
agreed. I had to talk to somebody about that because Old Dirty. I want to say he passed about 2 or 3 days before or after his birthday. Anyway, it's a span like that. And when we were celebrating him on his birthday, and but people wanted the acknowledgement on when he passed. I'm like, we want to kind of celebrate people on their born day as opposed to the day that they're no longer here. It's more of a celebration in that way. But yes,
Yeah.
Big would have been 49 years old. I think that he had a real. I know he told Joe Claire this, and of course, Too Short. He actually celebrated the anniversary of 25th anniversary of his 10th album when he retired. You remember when Too Short retired? Big had this thing, and I guess it was this thing back then that at 30 rappers were supposed to retire. And I know he was 25 when he passed. I wonder if he really would have retired if he would have lived, or would have been one of those Too Short things where it's like you retire for a couple of years and then you're like, what am I doing? Let me continue to make music because I feel like Big, if he were here, he would be making the records that Rick Ross makes. Um,
Possibly.
track wise, like production
So
wise.
so here's what I would tell you. I think um what Jay and Nas had have done would probably have kept him in the game longer than he wanted to be. Big was sneaky competitive. He wasn't like ultra competitive outright where you could notice it like Jay. He didn't give a fuck about it at all like Nas. He was somewhere in the middle. And I think watching those guys extend themselves the way they have would have made him extend himself because he's sneaky competitive like that. He's listening to them like that. He was listening to them like that when he was alive. So I they probably extending themselves probably would have extended him. So it would have been like a competition, and I think a more viable one because I think Nas always took Big more seriously competition wise. So I think we would have got better Nas records had Big lived too. Because
Okay,
Nas always
that's
looked at Big
interesting.
and Nas always looked at Big and Pac like his rap contemporaries, and Jay somebody who came after. That's part of why he never took it seriously until he had to. So like Big being here is a big thing in the course of music. Yeah.
No, I agree. Production wise, who do you think that he would be rocking with? Because at the time, let's just say early 2000s, Nas had gotten with Salam Remy mostly. Because I'm not counting Stillmatic when he kind of, brought back Large Professor for a second. But the Nas period where he was with Salam Remy and Jay was working with Just Kanye and that ilk. Do you think Big would have still been with Bad Boy, or what? Who do you think he would have been working with? Because both of those great MCs to kind of drop Primo off, they stopped working with him. Do you think he would have still
So
worked with Primo, or who do you
so
see Big working with?
So I think that Big, a lot of that depends on the Bad Boy situation. I've told this story before, Mike. He was signed to a 6 album deal
Mm-hmm.
when he realized really what was going on with the deal and what was involved and what he had became. That's how really the second album became a double album. It really
Right.
wasn't about him wanting to sell more records. It was about fulfilling contractual obligations because he had planned to make the next album a triple album and then be off of Bad Boy. If he's off of Bad Boy, Mike, I'm actually going to tell you something. I think he probably would have went to Dr. Dre and DJ Quick, actually, and I'm going to tell you why.
Really?
Big was a big West Coast fan. A lot of people forget that his demo is mostly him freestyling from beats off the Chronic in doggy style. And so, and one of his favorite rappers growing up was Ice Cube. So Big
I
actually was
was
a big West Coast fan, and I think that Big, being also insightful, would have taken everything that happened with him and Pac and fulfilled that contractual obligation with Bad Boy, and actually would have teamed up with more West Coast producers about kind of cooling the tensions. But also too, he fucked with them from the jump. He loved Cube, he loved Snoop, he loved Dre Beats.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, you feel
He
like he would have
probably
done the Ice Cube thing in reverse.
Possibly. I mean, like, you want to know what? He's competitive too. I mean, it probably fucked with him when he heard Nas fuck with Dre. Nas was the first New York dude to like go snag Dre. Biggest sneaky competitive. He was probably looking at that like, you got him for a track, I can get him for an album. As soon as I get out this deal.
We might have heard a little bit more RZA, and we were actually gonna have a RZA conversation tonight. We might have heard a little bit more RZA, and I think a little bit more Easy Mo B. And I do think that somewhere Kanye probably would have slipped in there because he was working with the likes of pretty much everybody.
Would we have heard RZA more with the whole purple tape skit? Like, wouldn't that have had to get cleared up in order for that to
It
happen?
did
I
get
mean,
cleared up because he was on Life After Death.
yeah, Long Kiss Goodnight. But I mean, like, that was kind of, I don't know. It'd be interesting to see.
All right, here's another person. I think we would have heard some Swiss Beats and Biggie stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a fan of Swiss's production like that, but I think we would have heard that. Swiss was all over the New York MCs. Like,
I could see Big fading out of New York because he was so versatile delivery wise. He would have heard these Southern producers and these West Coast guys, and he just would have, you know, I could see him doing it because he had the flow and the delivery to do so. He's the most comfortable MC ever on the mic. Mike, he probably could have got a beat from anybody. Could you like imagine Big rapping the Dilla's beats?
It's funny you said that, and I don't know what made me think about Dilla. I think when I started talking about Old Dirty,
That's
think
my
that
dream pairing, Mike.
Huh?
That's my dream pairing. That's my dream.
You know, it's funny you said that. It's funny you said that. I would have loved to have heard Big over Dilla's shit.
You want to know why? Because for me, Dilla's the most rhythmically inclined producer, and Big is the most rhythmically inclined MC. It would have been nice to hear them make some music together. Yeah.
I think what made me think about that too is Only Built for Cuban Links 2, and the work that Dilla did on there posthumously, and it was still incredible. Yes, I would have loved to have heard Dilla on Big. Huh?
10 Bricks is crazy. Can you imagine Biggie rapping over 10 Bricks? That's what I'm saying, Mike. Woo-hoo.
It's sad, man, that we it's awful. Think about that, it's one of the biggest tragedies in music, man. It really is. Yeah. But I do believe that he would have kept going on. I think he probably would still be making music at this point, like, you know, Jay and Nas are. I don't think the retirement thing ever has been a real thing for any rapper. Like, what actual rapper has announced a retirement and just went and sat down and never came back? Has it been anybody?
Hey, Mike, since we're mentioning those three guys, doesn't Biggie strike you as the one of those three that was mostly like rapping for his life and a way out? Like, doesn't it strike you as like Jay and Nas would have went on and did other things anyway, either if rap didn't work out? Biggie's like the rapper of the three of them, like the guy from the streets that really used rap to get out the projects. You know what I mean? Like, Nas and Jay got like other gifts. It's like Biggie's gift kind of was like the rap shit. And when he got dedicated to it, he got nicer than anybody who ever lived.
He was a natural, man. I saw a clip of him at like 14. I think it was a Video Music Box commercial or something. They caught him in the projects, and he was just rapping. It's like,
I think he was a little older than that, but I know some. I think he's like 16 in that clip, but I know the clip.
No, not the one where he's battling on Fulton Street. He's
like not the one you're talking about?
He's like
younger than that?
He's like a little kid, and like, you know, those private school suits that, you know, they be showing him in. He had one of them on and was rapping, and I was like, yo, man, he was a natural, man, like a natural. It's pretty amazing, man. But rhyme scheme, you know, storytelling ability, hit making ability. I don't think that there's anybody more rounded than him on the mic. And
he was blessed. He was blessed with the voice too, Mike. The voice is epic too.
He has a top three voice in hip hop.
I was about to say, him, Pac, and Method Man are my top three rap voices, Mike.
That's not a bad list at all.
I know you got Rakim up there. I like those three guys' voices better.
Yeah, I got Rakim up there voice wise. I got Chuck D in there too.
Chuck's up there.
I like Busta Rhymes' voice in certain way. I think Busta Rhymes has probably the most unique voice.
See, he has the most unique voice, you see, but when I say the best voice, it's like the voice that I can hear all the time. The voice that I can hear all the time. And that's Method Man, Big and Pac to me. It's like every time I hear them rap, it's like, that motherfucker voice is ill.
You remember?
They ill, but the voice is ill.
What was the song on Muddy Waters? Do What You Feel.
Do What You Feel.
Method Man sounds so crazy on there. Like Redman is rapping his ass off on there, and I think on that song he rapped circles around Meth, but Meth came with the voice. Who on the flip with the acrobatic?
Mike, that's why that pairing makes you wonder if they're better than Outkast, because it's like lyrically, Redman has Method Man more often than not, but delivery-wise, Method Man has Red more often than not. It's just beautiful when they get together and do it. Do What You Feel is one of their best tracks together to me. Like, I put that right after How High and the Rockwaller.
I am the super lyrical individual. I be spitting through that Teflon material. Flow is spent off a schedule. Yo, by the way, side note, did you see that DMX interview on TV One?
I still haven't seen it yet. I know you told me to watch it. I still haven't had a chance yet.
Check it out. But
I'm probably gonna do that when we get done here.
What made me bring it up though is DMX told the K Solo story in a way that I had never heard it.
Really?
And maybe I'm late, but you know, he was talking about being locked up, and you know what I'm saying, like he spit this song that, you know what I'm saying, he had where he came up with the whole Spellbound thing.
Yeah.
You've heard that story? Yeah. Mm-hmm. But hearing him tell it at this point in his life, he really, you know how DMX, like, you could tell everything that he's feeling on his face. Like, he was really pissed off. Like, I really believe.
He was flashing back.
Yeah, I could really believe that the story happened this way, where it was like, K Solo was like, yo, spit that? Cool. And then went back and, you know, and said what he said. Well, not said what he said, but put out Spellbound. And DMX was infuriated when he heard it, you know. But yeah, that's really interesting. The fact that him and Redman have a relationship, and you know, K Solo is like Redman's brother, and he still was mad at K Solo for that. Like, it wasn't something that he kind of was like, it's cool, it happens. He's still like, man, fuck this thing. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, it's true to kid. Hey, so like, I want to give you another quick side note too. This is for you as a Tribe fan.
Okay.
I had a thought today, and it's the first time that I had this thought. So rock with me on this.
Okay.
A Tribe Called Quest, Q-Tip. The beats are more set up for Q-Tip, Mike. I heard the intro, the Crazy Sexy Cool today, came on my playlist with Fife.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized Fife sounds wonderful and fresh on that record. I would have loved to heard Fife on some production, like outside of the native tongues. He sounds so great on the intro. Like, Mike, that's a classic album. And his intro on there is part of the classic start to that album. And he's spitting on there, and he sound dope on there. I was like, man, Fife killing this shit right now. I'm like, Fife needed more tracks with some more bounce, like to match his energy and his zest on the mic. And Q-Tip just does more melodic stuff. I would have liked to hear Fife on some more up-tempo, like fly stuff like he is on that intro to Crazy Sexy Cool.
What did you think about, you know, that's an interesting perspective. What did you think about like Butter and records like that?
No, I mean, he's at his best on those records though, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, and stuff like stuff where it snaps hard, like Check the Rhyme.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's where Fife's at his best. He's, you know, and he can get in the groove with Tip. It's just you dealing with Tip. That's one of the best rap voices ever too, since we've been talking about rap voices.
I agree.
So you're dealing with a definite top 10 rap voice. You're dealing with a top notch MC. He's also doing the tracks. It's just more suited for Q-Tip to win. It just would have been nice to hear Fife on some different stuff outside the camp. Because when I hear him on that track, I'm like, man, you want to know what? I could listen to Fife rock like this.
Man, I think one of the downfalls of Tribe, in my opinion, as a fan, I think Q-Tip was just taking on too much of a load. And I think that it turned him into a bit of a, not saying he was, because again, Q-Tip's my favorite hip-hop artist. Shout out to Q-Tip. it could appear that you're a tyrant when you're handling everything. You know what I'm saying? And it's kind of like when LeBron's on the team, right? He gets the ball, does so much. You just can't help at certain points to just be standing around, or it
Right.
looks like you're standing around.
I mean,
And then
just
when
some more.
things don't go the right way, it's like, why don't he get some help? You know what I mean? And it breeds
No,
dissension. You know?
no. I feel you. No. And that definitely was part of the issue. It just, they should have let some of the guys that they were around come in and do tracks for them. I think that would have helped Fife more if Pete Rock had a track on there, if Large Pro had a track on there, if Primo had a track on a Tribe album. That probably would have helped ease some of that tension because it would have gave Fife more of a chance to get his rocks off his way. Because if you actually think about it, Mike, Fife is more suited to rap on something that a Primo or a Buck Wild or a Lord Finesse or even a Bink from the West Coast will do more than he is to rap over those Q-Tip beats. If you really think about Fife, Fife kind of probably conformed himself a lot for the sake of the group to make it work. He kind of got in Q-Tip space a lot.
I think Q-Tip attempted to do the same thing because that first album is really, to me, that first album is kind of like the wacky mind of Q-Tip in a sense where it's kind of like Prince Paulish, De La Soul-esque on that first
Okay.
album. And I think the second album was Q-Tip like, okay, well, everybody's not going to be where I am with this shit. Let me kind of try to cater over here. But yeah, you're right. It's like I think in that mission to try to cater to the rest of the group, it still was catering to him in a sense too. I think that Jay Dilla coming in or them bringing Jay Dilla in was a plan to actually try to diversify it. But you're right,
But
everybody
it's like,
was kind of
hold on,
enclosed at
Mike.
that point.
Hold on, Mike. But
Uh-huh.
even when you say that, it's like Q-Tip said it best when he talked about Dilla. It's like, oh, he does what I does, except for he's better at it. So that really
Yeah,
doesn't help
it was
Fife. That's
Q-Tip
what I'm
part
saying.
two.
Like, how about this? You want to know who would have done wonders with Fife? Kanye.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It seems like Kanye is always the name we bring up when it comes to because he's proven in that he makes artists better. He makes MCs better.
I mean, how about this? Like, do you think Fife's better than Consequence?
Yes.
Think about Consequence shit was pretty dope with Ye. Think about what Ye would have did with Fife. That's what I'm saying. Fife is nice. Like, I don't think he just got a fair shake. And it's no knock. He's part of one of the greatest rap groups ever. They're a top 5 rap group, right, Mike?
Who?
Tribe.
Of course.
Yeah, so he's part of one of the 5 greatest rap groups ever, but it's like it could have even been more. And I just realized that when I listened to that intro today, I was like, yo, Fife didn't get enough run.
Hey, yo, shout out to Brandon Savola in the room, man. You know what? I will say this, man. Kanye, he's done something that a lot of producers in hip hop haven't proven that they can do. And the fact that he could take an artist, whether you're new, whether you already have an identity, or wherever you're at, he could take you and bring the best out of you. I think he brought the best out of Pusha T with Daytona. I think he brought the best out of Common and B. I think that he brought the best out of Jay in many instances. Now, I know you don't want to give him full credit for the blueprint, but we know who the brainchild of that was. But
Just Blaze.
I disagree with you. You've heard Just Blaze records before that. Just Blaze was even on The Dynasty, and his shit sounded like Rick Rock, did it not?
Rick Rock shit dope.
It is, but it don't sound like what they were doing on the blueprint. This Can't Be Life sounds like what they were doing on the blueprint. Just Blaze adjusted to Kanye West.
No, I mean, Mike. Mike. So we just gonna tell people the show that we were really gonna do tonight is that I'm really starting to feel like RZA is the greatest hip hop producer ever, even over Dr. Dre, and that's what tonight's show was gonna be about. Before we realized it was Biggie's born day today, but I mean, I think we just did a list recently. We got Kanye at number 3 behind those two guys, correct? Deservedly so.
I think Kanye West is a better producer than RZA. And that hurts me to say because I'm a huge RZA fan. I think that, man, it's tough, man. It's tough. But I think that Kanye's done it over a longer period of time. And I think that the artists that he's worked with are all across the board. He's given Twista great songs.
Mike.
He's given Common great songs. You go out to the West Coast, he made Dreams for Game. Like, he's given T.I. classics. He's got East Coast classics. I mean, he's all over the place. And he's done it over such a period of time. You know, we should make a poll out of it. Let's do that. What do you think's going to happen?
Mike, go listen to the beats on Enter the Wu-Tang to Cal. Return to the 36 Chambers. Only built for Cuban links. Iron Man. Liquid Swords. Wu-Tang Forever. And then tell me that you feel that way. Cause
let me tell you this.
RZA made those albums in that order.
I agree with that's amazing.
Specifically, Mike, the Purple Tape, Liquid Swords, and Iron Man. Like,
amazing.
The beats on there are better than Kanye's best shit.
Some of my favorite beats ever in hip hop are made by RZA. Mike,
some of the best beats ever made are just on those 3 albums alone. Like, period. Those 3 albums that he executive produced himself. The Genius said, I didn't even hear my album till it was done.
Brandon Cifola says, RZA has no production with live music. Diamond's beat is epic.
We talking about one beat?
Well, he has a lot of epic ones. You like Flashing Lights, don't you?
Oh, Flashing Lights is epic, Mike. Ain't no, hey.
You like Flashing Lights, don't you?
I didn't say, hey. I said he's number 3. Flashing Lights is epic. Told you, I love some Flashing Lights. Like, what do you think? What do you think about My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy? Is that not an epic piece of work from beginning to end? Production-wise? No, it's an epic piece of work. Production-wise, Mike, I'm always going to lean more on Late Registration than My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Because I think the beats on Late Registration are better. The beats on My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy are fitting. They're more fitting than they are epic than they are to me.
Side note, RZA made my favorite beat on that album.
I mean, Mike, RZA doesn't do a lot of outside work, but look at the results when he does. We just bought up The Long Kiss Goodnight, and now we're...
You know, I didn't like the work that he did on Watch the Throne. I didn't really like that. But I love The Joy with Pete Rock. And I was glad that Pete Rock and Jay-Z finally connected. But I still think that Kanye shined a little bit more on there. I think that's the thing. I think that's the thing with Ye, though. I think that's why he's able to make artists so, bring the best out of artists, because he's an artist himself. And it's a little different when the producer can come to you as an artist as well. And in the kind of artist that he is, where he's very expressive, and we've talked about Kanye as an artist has that relatability thing and that ability to make you feel like Face, like Pac, and like Siegel does.
Right.
I'm sure he can not only sell his beat, but he can get the artist to dig deep and get the best out of them song for song. And I think that just adds to his talents as a producer. I think his talents as a producer are everything to his talents as an artist. But his talents as an artist add to him being as effective as of a producer as he is.
Right.
Because as great as Dre's stuff sounds, does Dre really get anything substantively out of artists?
No, Mike. I mean, how can you ask that, Mike? I mean, Snoop's best stuff is with Dre. M's best stuff, 50's best stuff, Game's
But what are
best
they
stuff.
talking about, I guess, is what I'm saying. You know what I mean?
Are you talking about depth? Are you talking about pulling something out of the artist?
That kind of stuff that you're pulling out.
Does he pull something out of them?
Because RZA does. RZA does that.
No, RZA and Ye do that,
Mm-hmm.
Mike. No, you want to know what? I've never really thought of it from that perspective, because the music that Dre has kind of put together has been so epic. I guess it's a question that I've never really formulated, but you asking it is very valid and relevant. What is he pulling out of these artists? Is he pulling out like what they already are inherently, or is he taking them to a next level? Because I tell you what, Mike, part of what made me bump Ye up the way that I did was what he did on Daytona for Pusha T, but it's not because like Pusha T has lacked great production before. It's like Pusha T has rapped with the Neptunes and Timbaland before, and never before has he sounded as good as he did on Daytona, short of his performance on Hell Hath No Fury. So Ye bought something out of him that I hadn't seen him do in over a decade. So like there's something to be said for producers to do that, because he did the same thing for Common with B.
He brought Santeria out of Pusha T. You know what I'm saying? He brought the games we play out of Pusha T. Like,
no, Mike, even if you know, you know, because it's like, how about this? When I mean pull something out of somebody, let me tell you one of the beautiful things about Daytona. It's almost like he got Pusha to drive the car in different gears instead of at one speed. Pusha usually gets in the car with the dope boy shit and he drives at a really hard, fast pace with it. Ye got him to switch up speed. If you know is a mark of Ye's influence, because it's Pusha talking the way he talks, but it's scaled back and witty and beautiful. It's the type of record Jay would make in his prime, Mike.
Yeah. I think he pulled the corners out of Common. We didn't know Common had that in him, especially at that period. I think he pulled Never Change and Heart of the City out of Jay.
Yeah.
Like, these are records where you're digging deep. And I think that, I don't know the actual order that these songs were made in, but I feel like those led to him making a song cry, No, and it's like whenever artists are really expressive, Kanye's somewhere around. You know what I'm saying? Artists that normally aren't expressive like that, you know what I'm saying? And make some of their most expressive stuff. He's somewhere on the project. And I think that, his, as funny as it sounds, his abilities and success as an artist have overshadowed his production abilities. But, that's kind of a give and take because, again, I think his abilities as an artist have really, really added to how effective of a producer he can be working with others. I was listening to Wouldn't Get Far the other day, too. I mean, that's witty, man.
It's witty. I never loved that record even when it came out. I'm not a big fan of that beat or that song, actually.
Speaking of which, Game posted up today, man, that, basically listen to my first 3 albums and you could throw Jesus pieces in that too. And I think that he's caught wind of you guys underrating his catalog.
When he's saying you guys, Mike, who is he talking about? Mike,
I'm not talking about you or I. I'm talking about the people.
Mike, because when you sent me that, I was thinking, it's like, oh, well, damn, has fam been hearing me speak? Because I specifically have been speaking about his first 3 albums in Jesus Piece, have I not?
Oh, yeah, you said exactly that. Those were the records that we were talking about. And, you specifically albums, zeroed in on Jesus Piece. And it's funny that he threw that one in there, too. Because, again, incredible work. I mean,
Mike, there aren't too many rappers walking around with 4 albums of that quality. You're going to have to show them to me, because here's the thing about it. It's like I would have Ross ahead of Game, but that's more about beat selection and hit records, because I don't think Ross has 4 albums that strong.
I don't think Ross is a better rapper bar for bar than Game either, but I do think that Ross has an incredible catalog, and I do think Ross is a very dope MC.
No, he's very dope, Mike. Like, I have them very close. I just prefer Ross because I think when how about this? When Ross hits his mark, to me, his mark is higher than Game, even though Game's probably better and has made better albums. But I would have them neck and neck. But not a lot of guys are walking around like that.
The only knock that I would have on the Game is he has a lot of help. That's it. You know what I'm saying? But I don't care about that either. I mean, I think that Game has immensely improved from the very beginning, and in the very beginning, he made a very dope album. But when you look at like the documentary 2.5, he has everybody in the world on there, which I think is a great thing. You got producers from all across the board, and he shows you that he can make records with any and everybody. And I think it's so funny because his name is The Game, and you got the name dropping, but he is the Game, everything that encompasses it.
So you want to know what's crazy is that, like, let's even go to the documentary 2 and 2.5, like the double album. I mean, this is what I mean. So that would probably be his 5th and 6th best albums. And then there's Born to Rap. That's 7. I mean, Mike, that's what I'm saying. It's
quality.
Like, look at his catalog. Like, he's got a catalog that's about 7 albums deep of quality rap material. There's not, I mean, Mike, some of the greatest MCs. How about this, Mike? Rakim can't say that.
Damn. Started with $1 and a Dream.
I mean, can Rakim say that? I mean, and I'm not in any way saying the game is Rakim. Let's
I
not
know
get
what you
that
mean.
confused.
I know what you mean.
I'll
I
take
mean,
Rakim's three best albums almost over. Yeah, I'm taking Rakim's three best albums over pretty much anybody. But I mean, look at it, Mike. The material's there.
yeah.
That's what I'm saying. We got to give these dudes their flowers for what they've done.
You said
Not
you were
wait.
gonna listen to Born to Rap the other day. Did you listen?
I did listen, Mike. That's why I said quality, because you want to know what?
Yeah.
I didn't like it at first, but it's a quality rap album. It is.
I
It's
fuck with Born to Rap.
yeah.
The song with Nipsey is crazy.
The song with Nipsey is crazy.
Crazy.
Mike, I even went back and listened to a little bit of the Red album, and I found a couple tracks on there that I had forgot about. I was like, you want to know what, man? Game spitting.
Red Nation is epic. I don't care what anybody says. That's one of my favorite songs from him.
I forgot that he had young Kendrick on the Red album.
Mm-hmm. The City.
Yeah.
Yeah. The Red album's dope.
No, that's what I mean, Mike. That album would probably be like 8th or 9th on his list of albums, and I'm thinking, like, how many dudes out here rapping? That's their 8th or 9th best album.
How many albums does J. Cole have better than the Red album?
I knew you were going there. I was just going to wait for you to
I'm just asking.
No. Go ahead and get the people started when they were starting to fade.
But you know what? No, for real, all jokes aside, the fact that J. Cole beat him 74% to 26% over 6,000 votes, I don't really know what that means, man, because I don't know. Do people love J. Cole that much, or do people hate the game that much? Which is it? I don't know. Is it a bit of both? Because it's not logical.
This week, Mike, I think it's definitely both. I just would encourage people to just go listen to the game's catalog.
Well, I'm glad the game put that out there so that people could listen to him as well and go listen to his catalog.
No, man. I mean, because Mike, it's just like with basketball. It's like there are a lot of dudes out here. Like I can think of about 2 or 3 guys, Mike, that I've seen play growing up. That's just as good. Like I'm talking about when we was kids, I knew some dudes that had some NBA talent. You know what I'm saying? And like rap is kind of the same way. Like being able to spit your ass off is one thing. And there's been countless dudes like that. The ability to make a rap album, to make it dope, to make it classic, to consistently provide your audience with those projects is a very hard feat to do. And I just don't want it to be understated. And so for people, it's like, oh, well, they may not care for the game. It's like, just go listen to the music, man. Yeah. Like, let the catalog see. Like my cousin M6 used to always tell me, man, like, it don't matter who it is, where they coming from, or how they spitting it. Is that shit good?
I think this is the best way to settle it. The game needs to do a versus against somebody. And you know what? Since T.I. is out there trying to get versus against everybody, I think T.I. is the perfect person for Game to go against. What do you think?
It's doable for sure, Mike. I mean, like I'm with it. I think that's a pretty fair and even matchup. I think most people would give Tip the edge. I think Game has been slept on, though, but I would be excited to see that. And both of them have a lot of bangers, too, and so it would be fun and entertaining. And, Mike, they're actually cool with each other. Like, you know, I remember a few years back, like, there was actually a whole thing that it went down with the police when Tip was in L.A. kicking it with Game. And they was outside at the club together, and there was some static with the police. So they know each other, and there's some camaraderie there. So
I think that'll be a good one. I think that'll be a good one for the culture. And, you know what I'm saying? I know T.I. wanted to go against 50 Cent, but, you know, respectfully, I think the Game has a better catalog of music than 50. So
me too.
Level up a little bit more. You know what I mean?
I mean, how many albums does 50 have? 4 or 5?
Yeah, but he got a lot of mixtape stuff, and I think he could pull some power out of the dollar stuff out his ass. I think that would be, No. I mean, I'm just asking the gauge because I don't feel like he even has more than 6 projects, like as far as full album releases. Maybe if you put all his mixtapes together, you have about 10 projects. Right. And you got like, 2 G-Unit projects or whatever. I still think the Game... Oh, God,
there are 2 G-Unit projects. You see, I'm over here thinking there's only 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think, though, if the Game got to do a versus against somebody, you know what I'm saying? I think that then people will understand, like, yo, because if he come with, like, something like Bigger Than Me or whatever, even if people ain't heard that shit before, that's one of those songs where people will be like, yo, what song is that? Where can I go find that at?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I want people to check Game's catalog because it's like I've liked them from the jump and been following them from the jump. Therefore, I know the catalog. Game has a lot of heat.
Because if he spits that verse on Really and it's another song from that project you don't like. If he spits that verse, people are like, yo, where is this at?
That's what I'm saying. Like the Bulletproof Diaries with Raekwon, House of Pain. I'm just thinking of some LAX tracks that I love.
Running is his song.
Yeah, Running. Put You on the Game.
Yeah.
No Church for Thugs. Mike. Dreams.
Bruh.
Scream on them. Why You Want to Hate the Game?
Why You Want to Hate the Game? 100 bars.
100
Shout
bars,
out to Ty Walton down there.
California Vacation. Old English.
Jeez. You remember the song he did with Shine? That was on that They Don't Want None, the Neptune song?
I vaguely remember
that
it.
Shit was hard. It's hard.
I remember not really loving that record that much, but yeah, like he's got stuff. What's the track that he did with Scott Storch on The Doctor's Advocate?
I was thinking about that too, the first single. Yeah. That was heavy. It kind of sounded like Still DRE to me, but that shit was hard.
Right, that shit was hard. What he got? The end of like Father Like Son. Don't Worry with Mary.
Listen. The Game. If you hear us right now, what I want the game.
We ain't brought up How We Do or Hate It or Love It because 50's on there.
Right. What I want the game to do right now is start challenging people at verses. Just call people out, tag them, because the game. I don't think the only person, and we talked about this. Rick Ross will give him a good one.
Mike,
but
Jesus Piece got bangers on it. Pray, Church, Ali Boumaye, Name Me King, Y'all Scared, Can't Get Right, Hallelujah.
Yeah. Again, there's not a lot of people out there who haven't done the verses yet.
No, that's why
for him to call out. That's why T.I. has to be the one.
I'm naming these tracks, hoping our audience like picks up and goes and listens to these tracks. Like, you need to hear these records. Like,
yeah.
Oh, Mike, one of my favorite records. Like I actually like this more than Why You Hate the Game. Letter to the King with Game and Nas. The End of LAX.
Yeah. Yo, man, the Game got heat,
it's nothing
man.
like nigga. Don't sound shit alike. Like Game, like Jigga. Right.
You ain't even named nothing from the documentary 2.5.
No, I haven't. I didn't name nothing for the Red album either. Like, that's what I'm saying. Dude got like rhymes, bars, songs, hits. Like yeah.
I mean, I'm gonna say it like this, and you know how I feel about Kendrick's catalog, album for album. In a verses, Kendrick wouldn't stand a chance against the Game. Point blank. Period.
The types of record that Kendrick excels on, it would make it hard for him because he doesn't even have what I would like to call the Nas buy-in records. Like, he doesn't even have If I Rule the World, Hate Me Now, I Can. Like, he doesn't even have those.
All right, I guess it's his for that.
That's what I'm saying. He's got one. I mean, like, I even hate to say this, Mike, even if Nas wanted to like go for hit shit, like he could play You Owe Me. It's like, as awful as that would be for him to do.
I hate You Owe Me.
Nostradamus, Mike, the Nostradamus single, it's like Nas has made like singles that have like thumped, is what I'm saying. It's like Kendrick really hasn't done that. You need some of that in a verses. It's like Nas ain't gonna win no verses without If I Rule the World and Hate Me Now. He needs some bangers.
You know, I hated Nostradamus back when it came out, the song. But now, it's not that bad. It's not that bad. It's not as bad as I remember. It's kind of like that World Party by Goody Mob. Like, I listen to the album now. It's not great, but it's not as bad as I remember. I used to be very hard back in the day. Like, as far as like, you know, listening to my hip hop, like, I didn't give shit a chance.
I'm not letting him slide for Nostradamus. I personally got ridiculed until Ether came out.
The song Nostradamus was, yeah, I mean, like I said, listening to it now, it didn't sound as bad as it did back then because he was coming off of I Am, which had its flaws as well, but the high points of I Am are extremely high. So, yeah, so when Nostradamus came, it was like, yeah. I think we can leave the show on that note. Next week we got DMX's project Exodus, which has Nas on it twice. has a song with Jay-Z and Nas on it again. So we're getting 2 Jay-Z and Nas collaborations in 1 year. So sounds like they got a joint album on the way, right? Anyway, Alicia Keys is on there. Bono's on there. The Lox are on there. Griselda's on there. Who else? Oh, Lil Wayne's on there. And so, yeah, we're going to have a lot to talk about next week. And we're going to be as fair as possible. And it is what it is, man. Any closing words?
Yeah, can I talk about us for a second? So,
Go ahead.
This August will be 5 years that I've been at According to Hip Hop.
Oh.
Right.
Happy anniversary.
No, it's coming up. I'm going to tell you why. Something came up from a post from the day that I started writing for According to Hip Hop to let me know that it's August 14th coming up.
Dope.
That's when you and me talked and I started writing my first article. I just want to tell everybody to do what they love. Like, do what you love. Like, when I reached out to Mike and I started writing for According to Hip Hop, I used to pull up and tell people about According to Hip Hop, and they didn't know who we were. And it's 5 years later, and the last 3 or 4 times that I've been out and I've pulled up about According to Hip Hop, people have known who I was, you know? And so just kind of stick to your dreams and what it is that you love to do. It's going to like show itself to you, Mike. It's almost like getting to the point that every time I'm telling somebody to subscribe or join us or passing out the business card, like I just met a dude the other day that I worked with. He's like, I'm already following y'all. He's like, you the nigga from the podcast.
That's what's up.
I mean, Mike, you know where I was last week when I was in there. They like, you the nigga from the podcast. It's like 5 years ago. I was like, we According to Hip Hop. We about to be major. Everybody's like,
It'd be like that, man.
And now when I pull up, it's like, I'll be like, hey, follow us. Be like, oh, my homies follow you already. I got you. Mike, somebody hit me up today about doing a voiceover, about doing this podcast.
That's what's up.
You know what I mean? Because they watched the podcast and they were like, yo, you got a great voice. And like what y'all doing is dope. Like you want to do some voiceover work? I'll pay you. I was like,
bet.
Run it. Stick to your dreams. It's been 5 years. Like, it took me 5 years to become an official employee of According to Hip Hop. Mike just cut me my first real check about a month ago. Stick to your dream. No,
more on the way.
Real with people, because it's not about the money. It's like it took 5 years to be considered a technical employee by the government of According to Hip Hop. We have a real big problem with our community. We're not sticking with what we love. That's why I'm saying this. Me sticking with what I love, it paid off in dividends that money can't count. And now the money's starting to come too, and the notoriety with it. And it's like all I wanted to do was write articles.
Well, and that hard work materialized into this incredible yearbook that you guys can get on Amazon, where we encapsulated the whole year 2020 just based on everything that we talk about, everything that you guys talk about in the discussions, and just we're able to accumulate all the data and put it in one book. So look up that According to Hip Hop yearbook on Amazon. Subscribe to us on YouTube as well. We want to start moving our Facebook audience over to YouTube because, it's just a lot more interactive. And I know a lot of y'all engage a lot more on, video content and lives on YouTube than you do on Facebook anyway. Shout out to Kwame Brown.
We just have more freedom to reach the people and do what we want on YouTube. And so it's time for the exodus.
Yes, sir. All right, man. Well, next week, man, it's going to be a great review, hopefully. I'm looking forward to new music. I love when we're able to talk about new music.
Yeah, always.